This is terrifying. I'm never gonna leave my door unlocked again. I always thought I was safe in my own home until I heard my front door open and I hadn't team moved from the couch. It happened 2 years ago, but even now I sleep with the lights on. I had just moved into a small apartment on the edge of town, quiet, affordable, nothing fancy. I work from home, graphic design mostly, so I was used to spending long hours by myself. I liked the silence, I liked the solitude, until I didn't. It was a Thursday night, a little past 11 p.m. I was sitting in the living room, watching a horror movie with the volume low and all the lights off except for a dim floor lamp. That's when I heard 3 slow knocks on the door. I froze. Not a knock and go kind of thing. It was deliberate, heavy, like whoever was on the other side wanted me to hear it. I muted the TV and sat in silence. No footsteps in the hallway, no sound at all. I lived alone. I hadn't ordered anything. No one ever visited me, especially not that late. I got up slowly and tiptoed to the door. My peephole was busted, always had been, and I'd kept forgetting to report it. Dumb mistake. I stood there listening. 30 seconds passed. Then a minute. Nothing. Finally, I turned the deadbolt and opened the door, just a crack. No one. The hallway outside was completely empty, dimly lit by a flickering overhead bulb. I stepped out, checked left and right, nothing. No doors closing, no elevator ding. Just silence. I went back inside, a little creeped out, and double-locked the door. That should have been the end of it. But around midnight I heard something worse, the sound of the door unlocking. Click. I swear my blood turned to ice. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a lamp, and crept to the front door. The deadbolt was still locked, but the handle was slowly turning, like someone was on the other side trying it. Gently, patiently. I stood there holding my breath, heart pounding. It stopped after a few seconds. I waited a full 5 minutes before I peeked out again. No one. I should have called the cops. I should have done anything but what I did, sit back down and pretend it didn't happen. At 2:33 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps inside the apartment. Inside, not above, not in the hallway, inside. Soft, slow, like bare feet on hardwood. I live alone. I reached for my phone, but it wasn't on the nightstand. Neither was the lamp. My heart dropped. I stayed still, under the covers, listening. The footsteps were moving toward my bedroom door. I could hear them, one after the other, closer, and then they stopped. Right outside, I couldn't breathe. Then came a whisper, a voice I didn't recognize, raspy, low, almost amused. You left the door open. The door creaked open about 2 inches. That was all I saw, just a sliver of darkness beyond it. Nothing moved, but I knew someone was there. I forced myself to scream, hoping the noise would scare whoever it was. But when I did, the door slammed shut. I jumped out of bed, turned on the light, grabbed my phone from the kitchen floor, and locked myself in the bathroom. The cops came 15 minutes later. They found the door closed but unlocked. No signs of forced entry, nothing stolen, but all the light bulbs in the living room were unscrewed. My closet doors were open, and on the mirror in the hallway, written in something thick and black, were the words, "You looked right at me. I moved out that weekend." I don't care if you think I imagined it, or if it was some twisted prank. I know what I heard. I know I wasn't alone. And every night since, I double-check my locks, because the scariest part, I never leave my door unlocked. And yet, they got in anyway. This terrifying patient story comes from a user. They say no one ever leaves room 616 the same. I didn't believe it until the night I was called to check on a patient who was already dead. I was a night shift nurse at St. Gertrude's Hospital, a small decaying facility on the edge of town that looked more like a condemned asylum than a functioning hospital. Everyone who worked there knew the stories. People whispered about the East Wing, the part they sealed off after a fire in the 1980s. They said you could hear footsteps in the empty hallways, whispers in the vents, and worst of all, room 616. I never put much stock into ghost stories. I was exhausted, overworked, and underpaid. Haunted hospitals weren't scary, just that was, until one particular Thursday night. The shift started like any other, for checks, patient charts, broken vending machines. Around 2:43 a.m., the intercom crackled, an ancient thing with wires that buzzed more than they spoke. A voice came through, code blue. Room 616. I blinked. Room 616 wasn't in use. It hadn't been for decades. I looked over at Janice, the ward supervisor, who turned white. "Ignore it," she whispered. "System glitch." But then it came again, louder, clearer. Code blue. Room 616. Immediate response required. This time lights flickered down the East Wing corridor. Something in me, curiosity, pride, maybe stupidity, pushed me to go. I grabbed my flashlight, my stethoscope, and walked into the wing. No one entered. The air changed instantly. It was cold. Not hospital cold. Underground cave cold. My flashlight danced across the cracked tiles, the stained walls, the rusted medical equipment that hadn't been touched in years. And then I saw it. The door to 616 closed, but faintly illuminated beneath. Someone or something had turned on the light inside. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then, 3 distinct knocks. From the inside, I pushed the door open. Inside was a hospital bed, clean, freshly made. Machine stood ready, humming softly, though the room had no power supply. There was a patient lying on the bed, eyes closed, pale, still. I approached cautiously. The chart at the foot of the bed read, "Patient unknown, time of death, 2:43 a.m. My stomach dropped. That was the exact time the code was called. Suddenly the monitor beside him beeped. A green pulse line flickered. He was flatlining but alive. I leaned in to check for breath and his eyes snapped open, mouth wide, as if screaming, but no sound came out. Just an awful wheezing hiss, like something inhaling through him. The door slammed shut behind me. I whipped around and ran to it. It wouldn't budge. I pounded on it, yelling, but my voice was swallowed by the thick air. I turned back. The bed was empty. The man was gone. But on the wall, something had been written, in jagged letters, smeared like with a dirty finger or dried blood. "Let me rest." Then the lights flickered and he was back. But now standing right in front of me. His skin looked burned, melted in places. His eyes were black, no pupils, just bottomless sockets. And when he opened his mouth this time, I heard it, dozens of voices, overlapping, crying, screaming, whispering, "They won't let me leave. She watches from the mirror. It burns, ... It burns. You brought me back." I stumbled backward, crashing into a rusted tray table. The metal clattered to the ground and the room shifted. The sterile white walls peeled away, revealing blackened stone, charred and cracked. The bed transformed into an operating table, stained with something dark and dripping. This wasn't just a haunted room. It was a trap, a replay of suffering that kept looping, a wound in time, and I was now a part of it. I don't know how I got out. One moment, the man lunged toward me, his arms stretching impossibly long, grabbing my shoulders, and the next, I was on the hospital floor in the East Wing hallway. Janice stood over me, crying. She said I was gone for 3 hours. The East Wing was sealed. They found me locked inside, no key worked. The room, empty, no bed, no patient, no machines, but I still had the chart. Patient, unknown, time of death, 2:43 a.m. I quit the next day, but sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear the intercom crackle. Code blue, room 616, thanks for watching. You really want to know how deep that rabbit hole goes? Well, let's go check out this story. It's about a guy named Liam. He's a photographer. He lives in Charleston, West Virginia. One day he gets a call for a gig shooting a wedding up in the hills, about an hour outside of town. The reception runs long, so he doesn't finish up until close to midnight. Now, normally, the smart thing to do would be to take the long way home on the highway, right? But Liam's like, nah, I know these back roads I can cut through and save some time. Specifically, he's talking about a stretch of Road 17 where the mountain cuts through. There's a tunnel, unmarked, uncharted. The locals call it Whistler's Hollow. Legend has it that if you hear humming inside that tunnel, well, you better leave right away, because whoever is humming is gone. Try and drag you in and steal your soul. Liam, of course, is skeptical. He's a modern guy. Ghosts are for chumps, so he drives on in. Before we go further though, I need you to subscribe to the channel. Come on, friend. Why don't you just hit that button? It really helps out. Thanks. So once he's inside the tunnel, things start to get real weird. First off, his radio cuts out completely. Secondly, the temperature drops almost 30 degrees. But what really freaks him out is that when he slows down, he thinks he sees a man standing at the end of the tunnel. Before he can get a good look though, the figure vanishes. In fact, it's only when he stops that he hears the humming again, and this time it's calling him by name. That's not good. Liam decides to back out of the tunnel as fast as he can, and once he's out, he looks back in his rearview mirror to make sure he's clear. But instead of seeing the tunnel, he sees solid rock. That tunnel, it's gone, vanished, doesn't exist. And if that's not enough, he gets out to check and his car's gone too. The entire vehicle is locked, abandoned, headlights still on, battery dead. Now, the next morning, someone finds his camera and snaps a photo of the tunnel. In it, you can see the face of the Hummer leaning in through the glass. After that, the story kind of just fizzles out. We don't know what happens to Liam, or if he ever makes it home. But the ending leaves a lot to the imagination, which is why I love it so much. This story was written by our user KF Horror, and if you like their work as much as I do, you can find more of it in the pinned comments below. Now I collect these stories because I'm fascinated by the unknown. Haunted places, cryptids, paranormal activity, ghosts, things that go bump in the night. But sometimes I like to think that there's more to it than that. Like in a world full of crazy horror movies and video games, maybe, just maybe, it's important to remind ourselves that there are some things that are scarier in our minds than they are in reality. But if you happen to stumble across a haunted tunnel, I suggest you do the smart thing and just keep driving. Thanks for watching, friend. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out. See you next time on the Graveyard Files.